Now, shift focus to Mumbai, where correspondent Shama Mishra is joining. She is joined by a CII representative. Shama, tell us, what does India Inc. want from the budget?
Well, Munmun, in the beginning, in the starting, early in the morning, we had spoken about the market traders and market experts and their expectations and about the expectations from different sectors. Now we are here at the CII budget viewing session, and we can understand stalwarts from across sectors would be here. They would be viewing the budget, and we have spoken about the expectations early on. But now it is time to watch the budget once it starts getting delivered. We have Rishi Kumar Bagla with us. He is the chairman, CII Western Region. Sir, I cannot be asking you about one particular sector. Since you are the head of CII, you would be talking about various sectors. So what does India Inc. really want from the union budget this time around?
It is very clear that our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has set a goal for India, a Viksit Bharat by 2047 and a $30 trillion economy. Each budget has to be a roadmap to achieve that Viksit Bharat status. And for that, it is very, very crucial and important how we react to this situation and how we move towards the Viksit Bharat. I am expecting from the budget a step towards that, especially when we talk of industry point of view. The Viksit Bharat 2047 $30 trillion economy has to come only largely out of manufacturing. Manufacturing has to contribute closer to 25% of the total GDP, so therefore manufacturing has to go up to 7.5 trillion. I am expecting each year there has to be some benefits for the industry or investment, so that the investment, the private investment, kicks in a very, very strong way, so that we are able to achieve our dream of a Viksit Bharat. That's about manufacturing. Regarding a country can only be Viksit if there is a very good, very strong ease of living. And therefore, looking at the way our population is expected to be close to about 1.6 billion by 2047, we must have a very strong infrastructure push to give the youth, the people of India, the aspirational India, the kind of living, modern living. So modern cities, smart cities have to be the way forward.
So as you mentioned that there'll be youth coming out, and then there has to be more facilities. But since there's so much pressure on the urban areas and the infrastructure projects, the urban infrastructure is also being built. Do you think is it time now to go towards other tier 2, tier 3 cities and develop them as good as the tier 1 cities, so that we can balance out the population as well as provide those areas also with facilities?
I'm sure this is something which is very, very crucial and important, and not just tier 2, tier 3 cities, but there should be many new cities that should get generated, because I think there's a plan to create many more new modern cities in our country, smart cities. And with that, we will be moving to not just tier 2, tier 3 cities, but to newer cities as well, which is going to be the smart new cities for the smart citizens of India.
Okay. Shifting focus towards the areas or to the sectors which we call it as sun-rising sectors, or sectors which has a potential, but we've not yet looked at it completely. Which are those sectors, and are you expecting some kind of policy, some kind of investment push in those areas?
AI and quantum computers and semiconductors are some of the areas which we have already identified by the government, and I'm sure there will be more push in this budget also towards that, because that is what is going to make us as Viksit Bharat. And as we say, we would like to be the Vishwa Guru, and for that we need to invest and we need to focus very strongly on technologies.
All right. So Munmun, this was Rishi Kumar Bagla telling us all about the expectations from different sectors and as India Inc. as a whole. And we do hope that the Finance Minister will make sure that she touches on different aspects, different sectors, so that India can lead the way to becoming Vishwaguru by 2047.
Well, thanks, Shama, for bringing us that insight from Mumbai. Well, taking that point further with you, Deepshika, we know that There has been over the past several years focus on the green shoots of investment in the private sector. The RBI has projected that there will be an over 20% rise in private sector investment in the current financial year. Again, it is the public spending in infrastructure, the capital expenditure, which has been underpinning growth for 3 years. Capital investment is picking up, but it's cautious. So, what is it that the Indian industry would like in this budget to spur it further to invest?
I think one of the key issue that industry has for some time flagged is this ease of doing business at the ground level. So while a number of measures have been taken at the central level, there's been Jan Vishwas bill, now there's another exercise which is going on. But ultimately, when a business or an industry has to set shop, they have to go to the last mile, and that can at times prove quite difficult for them. So if you've seen, there's been the deregulation task force which has done considerable work with state governments, and there's more expected to happen on those counts. So the idea is, while you create an ecosystem at the macro level with the tax incentives or whatever incentives or concessions that you provide, which government has done. They cut corporate tax rates, they introduced PLI to make, to bring cost parity in terms of with other countries, our other competitors. But now the next step is to go the next mile, which is more related to deregulation, ease of doing business, simplification, facilitation, and how we can encourage that, how we can facilitate that. So I think while the budget can give a broad direction on those counts, the idea is whether it can provide some impetus, some more push to states to ensure, these single window is created. There is this whole investment push that states can also onboard. So I think that is something that I would be keen to sort of watch in this budget.
Also, the labour codes have now come in. We have 4
Exactly.
labour codes. They've amalgamated a lot of the laws. So again, will the onus be on states then on how they implement it, with labour being a state subject? This is like a guideline which the government of India has come up with, but a lot depends on how states do.
Absolutely, and I think the most interesting part is that states also, they have understood that ultimately, job creation has to be a key priority for any government at central level or state level. So they also are looking to attract investments. I have just come back from the World Economic Forum in Davos, where you had very encouraging participation of the states. They are all trying to reach out to foreign investors and domestic investors to set up shop there. So unless you provide a very facilitative environment, industry is not going to come there, because there is competition within states now to attract investment. So I think that realization is there, but I think if the budget can provide some nudge in form of some incentives, even to states for that matter, or some more facilitation even at the central level. The labour codes have come about, but can we do something more? So I think those are the sort of agenda items for me in this budget.
And Deepshika, broadly talking about the manufacturing sector, where India is the fastest growing large economy, but still the kind of contribution that the manufacturing sector does to the GDP at around 17%, yet at quite a distance from that, at least a quarter of the contribution of the GDP. Make in India has been a flagship program for a long time. There have been several reforms, PIL we've been talking about. What is ailing the manufacturing sector? What are the challenges that you recognize that still need to be addressed, especially given the changing geopolitics, geoeconomics as well?
See, currently, if you look at the state of manufacturing sector, manufacturing, while services, we've done very well on that. Services employees provides huge employment, but manufacturing sector is the one which is going to lift the entire economy, also provide necessary employment, the quality employment that we're talking about. So it's much needed. So government, as I said, they cut corporate tax, it introduced PLI incentives. What more? What is next? We've seen success of PLIs, especially in electronic sector, hugely successful. We need that kind of focused attention on other sectors, because in some sectors PLIs have not been that successful. So there's been a review, possibly I think there could be some thing in the budget as an outcome of this review that was conducted by the government. But definitely I think what will really aid or spur manufacturing or investment in the sector going forward is how competitive it is going to be, and that competitiveness will come from cost of land, cost of capital, what kind of facilitation or simpler procedures states or even at the municipal levels have been put up for companies to set up manufacturing units. So, and India also, if you look at our agreement with the EFTA countries, that has an investment component. There is a commitment for investment. So I think these kind of measures that are being put in place in some of the trade deals, they will go very long, very far in attracting investment in this sector. And also I think with the GST reform, there was a huge demand push, especially to urban consumption. So that has also spurred, and that could possibly spur, kick in some private investment, because some sectors this demand push probably will continue for some time.
Right.
Also, I understand that the industry has been asking that the pendency that is there, that pendency of tax appeal cases at the Commissioner of Income Tax level needs to be handled in such a manner where there is a dual system, where simpler cases are fast tracked and more complex cases are sent for detailed review. So that was one demand I remember from the Indian industry. The other was that the GST registration, which is now happening in 3 days for smaller firms, should also be allowed for larger firms. So do you think that these are some measures that will facilitate the corporate sector if
Absolutely.
adopted?
The idea is for a company, how easy can you make it for that entity to do business in India? Whether it is GST registration, whether it is registration with the corporate affairs as a company, how easy it is for a company to close operation, to exit. So all these things need to be benchmarked with global standards. How easy you can make for companies to invest, set up manufacturing, acquire land. Can you make acquisition of land very open, very transparent, single window, not requiring much clearances? Can you make green standards? Can they be just transparent with single window clearance again? So I think as investors or any industry, it is looking for ease in terms of clearances. So while there has been this hesitation in private investment, and which is why we've not seen it come in that big way despite support of government capital expenditure for multiple years now. And corporate India always says, it is demand dependent, because unless companies have reached, at least 80% capacity utilization, they will not further invest. So that demand boost was provided. Hopefully now in some sectors, private investment should start kicking in. And whether the budget can do something more to encourage this from coming in, whether we can have more simplification in our tax structures. We do have still some complex structures. You know, Prateek Jain talked about the tax deducted at source framework. You spoke about the dispute resolution. There's much more can be done there to make it much more simpler and easier for everybody.
Right. Also, in terms of defense, we know that in the past the government has announced defense corridors for Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. Do you think that more in the eastern part of India there could be similar announcements? And also, do you expect private sector participation in defense to be incentivized? Because while it is there, it is still at a nascent stage.
Absolutely. You know, if you see the past 1 year, there have been multiple challenges. We had geopolitical, you know, the tariff challenge was there. We also had, you know, a conflict in the neighborhood. So, and I think that has brought defense at center stage. So, there would be definitely increase in defense spending. And also, during the conflict, you know, you had domestically manufactured drones being put to use. So how can you strengthen the domestic defense manufacturing ecosystem? Can you do something more in terms of PLIs? Can you have dedicated? There is already a drone PLI, but can you do something more? So I guess some incentivization or some creation of dedicated corridors is warranted. So probably we could hear something on that count.
Yeah, and what the economic survey talks about, looking at Swadeshi as almost like a strategic move in order to not just survive but thrive in the current geopolitical scenario. So in that sense, do you see, for a layperson to understand, a lot of reorientation of our focus and resources? Or do you think Swadeshi or Make in India and such plans, we were already trying to strengthen our sectors inside?
So, you know, the survey, Shubhendu, made this very interesting comment on the self-reliance or Atmanirbhar Bharat, as we have been discussing and talking about. It is now talking about Atmanirbhar or self-reliance as a strategic move, especially in the wake of what we've seen happen over the past 1 year.
Right.
So, the idea is your supply chains, you cannot be dependent on any single source. And if something is manufactured in India, the idea should be to encourage the domestic industry to buy from those suppliers, buy from those manufacturers, because that will feed into our own internal manufacturing system. So, over the past years, what we'd seen was, you know, especially if I could just mention the India-ASEAN FTA, it allowed lot of cheaper manufactured goods to come in at lower customs rate, which impacted the Indian industry quite a bit. So the ASEAN region had done lot of measures, they had undertaken a lot of measures to enhance competitiveness. So obviously the cost of manufacturing was much lower for them than our industry. So while that happened, I think the idea now is to ensure that our supply chains, our manufacturers are insulated from shocks. For example, now the exporters, especially with a large, you know, market not available or becoming very difficult with 50% tariff, they have to look at alternate markets. And while they look at alternate markets, they also have to, we also have to ensure that our manufacturers are shielded from the onslaught of cheaper imports from other countries, which are also facing, you know, these geopolitical uncertainties and tariff uncertainties. So self-reliance, I think, is now, and with the survey sort of mentioning it, it becomes central stage of our strategic sort of policy with regards to economy.
Right, and Deepshika, because we're talking about exporters, just want to understand Perhaps also our viewers, if you could help simplify the kind of impact that weakening of the rupee has on the economy. The survey argues that it does not necessarily represent the macroeconomic strengths of India's economy. In fact, it may well be advantageous for those involved in export and import. But how should we be looking at rupee going over 90 against the dollar?
So, rupee depreciation, India is also an import-dependent economy.
Yes.
You know, we are dependent on crude, especially fertilizer. So, definitely it has an impact on the overall economy because it is increasing the cost of our imports. It feeds into inflation. But that said, definitely there has been that, you know, we should not artificially keep the rupee sort of at a very high level because it sort of renders our exports incompetitive vis-a-vis other countries. So, exports definitely, it helps a number of sectors, especially, you know, the labor intensive textiles, apparel, where the import content is not very high.
Right.
So, those are the sectors that really benefit from, you know, a depreciated rupee. But definitely, I think the survey made it quite clear that rupee is punching its weight much below the you know, the fundamentals. And if you look at the macroeconomic fundamentals, the government's taken, made a lot of efforts to keep the macroeconomic fundamentals in place. Your fiscal deficit, inflation, they've all been maintained as such. So, I think that recognition of these fundamentals, and that's what survey said, has not been highlighted or not been recognized so much by the foreign investors. So, which probably the budget may to some extent look at as to why the foreign investment is not coming in. Is it because of some other factors that have kept
Although
them
the credit ratings have improved, the three important credit ratings that puts India on a higher
yes, because I think the rating agencies, although much more needs to be done there, we fundamentally should have better ratings because we are better off than multiple countries. Hopefully that will happen. But a lot of effort has gone into, you know, keeping, being on the fiscal consolidation path. The trajectory has been maintained. So, all that recognition reflected in the rating upgrade that we got. And but I think that is what the survey is lamenting, that despite all that, why are the investors not coming in the way they should have?
Right. Coming to the exports sector, we know that there is ROTTEP, which is an export incentive scheme. Do you expect the budget to maybe look at broadening it to include more products, because then that would mean a better export potential for other sectors like steel, cement, which are out of the ambit of ROTTEP?
So, ROTTEP, definitely there is a case to include more sectors, especially, you know, with the challenges that the export sector is facing. But if you remember, Munmu, the government announced the export promotion mission, which also had incentives there, and those incentives or those support measures were specially targeted at the sectors which are getting really hit by the high US tariffs. But going forward, you know, how can you make your export sector more competitive? How can you incentivize your exports?
Right, Deepshika, let's tell the viewers that the cabinet meeting, in fact, has begun. The Union Cabinet is meeting in the Parliament House complex. Earlier, we saw these visuals of the entire budget team posing in front of the cameras, led by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Earlier, outside Kartavya Bhavan, the Finance Ministry's office, then at Rashtrapati Bhavan, where the entire team met the President of India, Droupadi Murmu, and the third time at the Parliament House building, the cabinet meeting has just begun, where the budget is going to be approved before it's presented in 30 minutes from now at 11 a.m. India time in the Lok Sabha.
The countdown has begun for the presentation of the Union budget for 2026-27. As we speak, The Union Cabinet is meeting in the Parliament ahead of the budget presentation, where Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman would brief her Cabinet colleagues earlier. And those are visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the Parliament in Lok Sabha premises. The Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman would be briefing her Cabinet colleagues on the budget. Deepshika, just as a tradition, if you could tell us the significance of this very brief meeting of the Cabinet that happens before the presentation of the budget.
So basically, it's a tradition and also a mandate, because all key proposals, they have to be approved by the Cabinet. And just as, Finance Minister went to the President to take her assent to present the budget, the Cabinet also has to be informed before the rest of the world. It has to approve the budget before it can be presented. So, yes, tradition and customary and requirement, procedural requirement, yes, which is there. So, it doesn't last very long, this Cabinet meeting. And I think everyone's given just one sheet of paper from what we've heard so far, right, because ultimately the entire budget has to be presented before the Parliament first. It has to be read out.
Right.
So, right. On the need to retain talent, we know that, like Shubhendu has been talking of external sector challenges. US visa restrictions are widening with time. So, what is really required in the budget in terms of incentivizing the youth to stay in India, considering the US visa curbs? They already have now the option of not going to the United States. Many are moving back into India. Then how do you employ them gainfully here? What could be, say, the tax incentives that the government can think of for the tech workforce?
So, if you look at, there was a new scheme which was sort of rolled out last budget for the GCC. So, you've seen a lot of investment coming in the GCCs. Yes. A lot of foreign companies are setting up their operations here. There are data centers which are coming in. So, definitely you need employable people here, whether they are youth graduating out of colleges here, or there are people who are sort of staying abroad and they want to come back because of whatever issues. So, you have to create that right ecosystem to attract talent and the right jobs to attract talent, and probably the GCC's investment in these newer economy sectors can provide that employment boost. Also, I think if the survey highlighted a very key point on the urban infrastructure, yes, or the lack of it. Much more needs to be done to ensure that the cities remain livable. And that boost needs to come. There needs to be a major, program or a drive to uplift our cities, which have been facing a lot of pressure on various counts. So, I think people, not just to retain talent, but also if you have to attract talent within the country, you want people to come back, you have to create those conditions.
I think the World Economic Forum also talked about very interesting linkages between urban spaces, which are healthy spaces, the health is connected to economy, productivity, and interlinked.
Absolutely. Shubhendu, we all live in the capital city, Delhi, and we've seen, the entire winter, you're always sort of worried about whether you will, the kind of air that we are breathing in. So there's definitely a lot of scope to, focus and do something on the urban infrastructure to make the cities more livable.
Right. And now we are being joined by Prasoon Sharma, an IT expert. Well, the visuals on your screen of Prime Minister Narendra Modi going into the cabinet meeting. He's going to chair the cabinet meeting where Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will be present with the the tablet that contains the budget speech, and she is going to read off from that tablet the budget speech in Lok Sabha. The budget is going to be approved by the Union Cabinet before she makes her way to the Lok Sabha for budget presentation sharply at 11 India time in the morning. Well, Mr. Prasoon, what does the IT sector really want from the budget? Can you hear me, Mr. Sharma?
Yes, I would say this budget will be like of global aspirations for Indian youth as well as IT sector and also tech sector also. It will be defining the global tech arena, and in midst of these FTAs, this will also accelerate the global influence in economy, strategy, especially in tech strategy, which is AI, data centers and quantum and such related aspects, also in quantum as well. So we are very hopeful that this budget will place India among top 3 global giants and top 3 economies of the world. It will accelerate these FTAs and other ecosystem enablers announced by Government of India in last 1 year.
Right. Also, Mr. Sharma, we know that a lot of the IT and IT-enabled services are export-driven, but there is also a domestic market. So, for the domestic market particularly, what would you suggest?
I think there will be more, we are expecting that there will be more enablers for tech ecosystems, specifically startups, which is solving ground problems in infrastructures, in healthcare and in educations related to deep tech. And as we have R&D based fund also, so we also seek there should be some reliefs for foreign investments in domestic startup ecosystem and IT related aspect, and also more focus towards the like infrastructure related innovation and technology, whether it's railways, whether it's roads, highways and port related aspect.
Prasunji, Shubhendu here. Now we understand that emerging technologies, AI as you mentioned, and their impact on Indian global economy is at an inflection point. Regulations, opportunities, challenges are emerging as we sort of from day to day as we move ahead. What does the sector, particularly in AI and emerging technologies, what does the sector expect from the government? What kind of support, hand-holding, compliance would you want?
A big list of expectations, specifically from AI, because we are just a few weeks
Yes.
behind the AI summit. So we are expecting at least structural enablement, whether it's policy, whether it's defining AI regulations. Secondly, also enabling global players also to embed in our Indian ecosystem, whether they want to set up their R&D lab, data centers, or even technology transfers globally, as well as also to global startups also to get integrated in our AI ecosystem, because India is among highest data producing country, like around 17 or 18% of global data we are producing. But in terms of data storage, we are like less than 2 or 3% of data, global data is stored in India. So there is a huge potential in this aspect also, data related aspect, which fuels AI innovations and integrations. So we are expecting from government funds, regulatory aspects and enablement for global players to embed in Indian ecosystem, which will be producing AI solution for the world.
A little more on that, Prasunji. We were talking about the manner in which whole Swadeshi, Make in India, self-reliance is seen now as a strategic move. Now, in the area of emerging technology, sovereign AI, for a layperson to understand infrastructure which is going to be where all stakeholders, all data centers are going to be in control of the country of which the data belongs to. How significant is that, and where is India standing today in that context?
I think India is leading and also giving solutions to the world when it comes to our digital public infrastructure. This is the backbone for all AI related aspects, whether it's our Aadhaar, the digital identity, whether it's our connectivity to around 90 plus panchayat connecting with fibers. So this is a replicable global model which India is providing for digital infrastructures for global south as well as for some developed nations also, like in EU also. The kind of digital revolution we have built, I think the European Union still is behind in this aspect, and with this new FTA, India can enable their digital evolutions in public good, in e-governance, in public services to their common citizens, whether it's digital identity, whether it's their normal services. Like we have integrated around 300 plus government schemes in one platform, which is one of its kind globally. So these kind of things India can export to the nations in global south as well as to some developed nations also, especially in European Union.
Right, Mr. Sharma, also we've seen announcements in the past by the government on an AI mission, on a quantum mission on ANRF, which is Anusandhan National Research Foundation, all geared for making India a key player in the global digital economy. There are many layers to the digital economy. If you could explain to the viewers where India stands in each of them and what is the potential in each of them, and what are the announcements that would be required, or the schemes or the policy pushes that would be required for India to excel in all of them?
So in terms of digital economy, only there are two major economies other than countries, like whether we call it GAFAM, which is Google, Apple, which is US centric. And then there is BATAX, which is Baidu, Alibaba, which is Chinese centric. So now there is a third digital economy which is created by Indian stakeholder, which is based on digital public infrastructure, whether it's Aadhaar, whether it's UPI. UPI is now like holding around 49% of global payments happening. So this is a model where profit margin is not the mission or vision of this technology development. This is the only kinds of business model which is India has created, which is can be replicated globally and can be replicated by smaller countries also. So this is a kind of influence. India is making a different kind of digital economy, which is unique, which is inclusive, and which is not driven by profit only. It is driven by inclusion, equality, and also with minimum resource consumptions. Like there are countries where data centers or GPUs are much higher, but if you see the Indian ecosystem, they are providing the GPUs in very nominal cost for their MSMEs and startups. This is also one of a kind of initiative globally, which is driven by Indian government, especially AI Mission and METI. Then there was a lack of investments in R&D, and now with this Anusandhan fund that has been addressed, where government is taking initiatives, but it should also impinge private stakeholders or private houses also to invest in R&D also, and in this enablement is done by government also. Like for their CSR investments, they can also invest in these R&D related projects and startups. So there is a whole gamut of ecosystem enablement done by Government of India, whether it's providing regulatory aspect, whether it's providing funding, whether it's hand-holding even the MNCs to integrate, and also providing a digital public infrastructure to carry all of them together, so that even our MSMEs and the small ecosystem players like startups can also thrive and survive and contribute to the problems which is affecting the common man of India, and in their regional languages and in their tier 3, tier 4 cities.
Also, Mr. Sharma, there is the gift city example of Gujarat that we already have in the financial services space, in banking, financial services and insurance. Do you think that there could be replication of that model? Because in SEZs we are seeing friction points as far as tariffs go in domestic areas. So what do you think could happen and should happen for the financial services space?
I think GIF will be a highlight of Indian financial aspect, and it will be like a kind of base for FDIs, and a lot of elevation should be given to GIFT, where they can give a safer environment for global investors, because considering the current geopolitics, there are many investors who are looking for safe haven and stable political leadership, which government of India is providing, and whole Indian ecosystem is providing. So this is a time to give GIFT more leverages and ecosystem enablers to attract foreign investments, and also to give a longer term visions also, like when we are talking about chip based manufacturing, or our chip missions or semiconductor missions. Such missions require a patient investors, maybe for 10 to 15 years, and GIFT will become a base for that. And I think we are expecting some more benefits or similar kind of replications like GIFT in this budget also, which will fuel our strategic long-term goals of like semiconductor missions, or enabling FTAs with countries which will be providing this mission critical semiconductors also.
Right.
Prasun, we were talking about earlier about skilling of youth, also areas that need attention. If we turn to areas which in fact are really the driving force of Indian economy, services sector, within that IT services occupies a very prominent position. And I want to connect it to the FTAs that have been signed and also agreements for workforce mobility. We've done that in recent times with Japan, with Russia, and now also with the European Union. That really opens up the market of some 27 developed countries. So from that context of mobility of such talented workforce, IT services in your context, what would you see as important inputs to sort of energize the opportunities now created? Now, how do we build upon the strengths that we have?
I think for mobility, our National Skill Mission and Skill Ministry is working for many years. But now with this European FTA, the benefit will go to labor-intensive, sectors, which can contribute around 30+ billion of export business to Europe. And there we will see a lot of skill intervention in terms of technology, where we can improve like their productions, whether it's textile, leather-related, industries, and jewelry-related industries. So there you will see more skilling towards technology, enablement of automation of manufacturing, and also enabling their workers to work globally. In terms of productions, in terms of service centers, like in offshore centers in European Union countries. So we'll be skilling youth for technology based manufacturing, soft skill related aspect to interact with the global giants to sell their products, and also a kind of bridge between various countries to address the bilateral aspect also. So definitely skilling will be impetus for Government of India as well as for the industry also.
Right. Another question on retaining talent. Talking of skilling, and that will help generate more skilled talent, but the idea is also to retain talent despite labor mobility. Of course, there are more options now available. There is going to be easier travel, easier study, easier working, especially under the India-EU FTA between India and 27 countries of the EU. But it's also important to retain the tech force or reverse brain drain. To avoid brain drain, and with visa restrictions now tightening in the United States and several countries looking inwards, even though there are FTAs that counter that, how can the tech workforce be retained?
I think there's another opportunity because of this US restrictions on various visa regimes. So with most of the talents in AI and high tech is from India and China, especially the Indian tech we should give them opportunity to come back, invent or establish their entities in India. And I think reverse mobility from US is already started. There are many founders who are in our network who's they're coming back to India, or they are in US but building for India in technology, and then exporting to other parts of the world. So I think one aspect is to attract the talent from US and other market, which is a high-tech related talent. So second aspect is to train our lower strata of laborers to address our domestic need also, as you rightly mentioned, because we'll be needing more trained workers for specific industries, like whether it's semiconductor, then we need more trained skilled workers. And for that, I think Government of India has a comprehensive plan for that, with institutions like IIT Gandhinagar having a center for that.
Mr. Sharma, let's tell our viewers that the Union Cabinet has approved the Union Budget for 2026-27 ahead of its presentation by the Finance Minister in Lok Sabha in 9 minutes or so from now at 11 a.m. sharp.
We are less than 10 minutes away, in fact, from the presentation of the Union Budget 2026-27. News coming in. That cabinet meet that we were talking about has concluded, and the Union Cabinet has approved the budget for presentation. In just a short while from now, Union Cabinet has cleared the budget proposal as we speak, and now, minutes from now, the Union Budget will be presented. Let me welcome Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, Vice Chancellor, Nalanda University as well. Sir, traditionally I would have asked you a question on developing economy first, but since you represent a university now, from the education sector, the expectations, we have a few minutes left.
I can understand. So I think three issues are important for education sector at this point, particularly in terms of the push that economic survey makes for higher education sector, bringing in the new approach on investment, both from foreign entities and also from domestic. The second is more in terms of the higher education related to advanced technology. So AI preparedness of the university ecosystem, I think, would be extremely important. And third and last is in terms of the skills. So connecting skills and higher education. That's the emphasis we are expecting in the budget.
How's that articulated in the budget? We'll now be on standby for the presentation of the Union Budget 2026-27.
We'll join you after the budget speech.